like I said, there's been a little bit of buzz about the last Zoom call, and it was following from the Arizona retreat. It was a beautiful retreat. Apparently, I wasn't there, but the feedback of the people who were there, who connected with Maharishi and the teachers and the ascenders there, just had a really wonderful time, and we're playing with some great stuff with their experience. So the last Zoom call was really focused on that and sharing with everybody what had been happening, so that everybody else could join in too, and use the same sort of focus points with their practice of ascending. So there was a lot of feedback from that call, and so this call got created too. I'm still in America, so as long as I'm in America, we still could be having these calls for a while. I don't know when I'm heading to Spain. My paperwork's been delayed, so you've got me for a little while yet. What I love about the Zoom platform is how effortlessly it brings everyone together. It's already happening on Monday nights with the teachers out of Colorado, and probably on other evenings from other teachers. Anyone with a Zoom account can do this, can arrange to have calls that people connect in with. So, take advantage of this, because it's really a magnificent thing that brings us all together without you having to leave your home. So I can see from some of the videos here that there's some people gathered together and some on their own, and it's wonderful because you can choose to do whatever you want. So the last Zoom call, we talked about a few different things. How do I put it? A few different kind of like focal points for your practice of ascending. And my desire always is to help people to keep passionate with their experience, keep ascending, keep wanting to ascend, and to, when you do close your eyes and use the techniques, to make it as simple and effortless as possible. So anything, any exercise, any instruction, any reminder, any new sort of like focal point that helps us to enhance our desire to practice is always a gift for us to keep going with our journey of discovering the infinite and to start living in that. Because I just got back from actually teaching in El Paso, I think it was 2 weeks ago now. And the thing I really focused on there was sharing with people how to firstly want to ascend and want to meditate, want to spend time with your eyes closed and make it important, when everything else is happening in our daily life, like to actually make our practice that important that we put it as a high priority during the day. And then the second thing we talked about a lot was how to make it even gentler and effortless. Because for myself, there was a large period of time when I was trying to ascend, trying to get through my techniques and trying to be a good ascender and do it right. But also I was I just seemed to be struggling with the whole, it just always seemed to be difficult. I was struggling with the thoughts. I was struggling with whatever I was experiencing. There wasn't that much surrender and allowing for me in my experience. And there didn't seem to be any moving forward. I wasn't getting the response or the results, I guess, that I wanted. And I think for most people, the results we want is to recognize that we're experiencing peace more, to recognize that we're not reacting as much as we were in the past. When we're in situations which are nerve-wracking or conflicting, to know that we have a way through that and that we're not like caught up in it. And when we're not seeing those results, we question our practice and wonder what we're doing wrong, or if we're just not doing it right and we're not good enough, And that's the part of the mind that we haven't transcended yet. That's all. I love that about ascension. I love that about this practice of meditation. It's so direct. It's so direct and so to the point that you're either surrendering or you're not. You're either holding on to something or you're wide open. You're either allowing your experience to be whatever it is and surrendering that into the infinite space, or there's resistance there and we're wishing or wanting something to change. And it's that simple. We see that. And through the practice of using the techniques and coming back to being present, we start to actually experience for ourselves that clarity between what we're getting caught on, what we're believing to be real, and when we just simply let that go and allow whatever we're experiencing to just fade away into the background and with no judgment, and that's something that changed for me. I resisted, I fought, I tried to change my experience. I wanted ascension to give me something, that I wanted evidence that I was moving forward or evolving, becoming enlightened. And when I didn't see it, of course, I blamed myself. And that's always a trap. That's what I want to start off with tonight, and then we'll get into the stuff we were talking about on the other Zoom call, because to me that's the most important, is to actually look at how you are experiencing ascending, what you're actually doing after weeks, months, years of this practice, and those tiny little tweaks that when we grasp hold of something and want something to change, that we're just simply not seeing and totally identifying with that. Ascension, the whole purpose of ascension is to rise beyond the confinements of the thoughts, the limitations of the mind, the brutality of what we think about and what we believe in. We're so addicted to that and so believing in that it's such a relief when we come back to using the techniques and becoming present, so that we can realize that there's something completely different, and that experience of oneness, God, divinity, present moment is completely livable, not something in the future, not this goal, but actually something we rest in and start to actually live in by simply letting go of the mind. And so the practice of ascension is to recognize our thoughts so that we're not believing them anymore, to recognize that we have that power or that ability to simply watch and observe what's going on instead of being conditioned to it, and identifying with it. And so the practice isn't just the ascension attitudes. The ascension attitudes are the tools or the first step for us to see what we're thinking about and what we're identifying with, so that we can learn to have a different experience. So the techniques are valuable, so valuable, to give us that first stepping stone, or that stepping stone forever to disengage from thinking and identifying with something so small and contrasting. So the next thing, which is so important, is the alertness. When we practice ascending, eyes open or eyes closed, typically it's the eyes closed practice that people start to really get clear on first. There's less identification to movement or to thought or to the world with the eyes closed. And so we start to see where our practice of ascending then, or our meditation, is just 20 minutes, half an hour of thinking these techniques once in a while, or when we're really playing with becoming more conscious. We're starting to create this ability, this new way. It's our natural state, so it's funny to call it new, but because we become so conditioned to thinking, it appears new. It appears new to start becoming present again, when the reality is it's not new, it's who we are. It's our natural state is to be present and to be conscious. Anyway, it appears to be new because we've been unconscious to it for a long period of time. And so this awareness, this gentle alertness that we start to practice with ascending, starts to grow by us applying it. It's almost like it's the opposites. It is our natural state. We should be experiencing it all the time, but we're not, because we're conditioned to thinking. We believe these thoughts so strongly, and we identify with this being who we are, that we don't experience that infinite connectedness or that eternal peace or that connection with everything, not all the time. And so it appears like we've got to relearn who we really are so that we can experience that alertness and that ease and that ability to just be here effortlessly right now, and to trust that, to allow ourselves to just rest in this moment without having to go anywhere, and to trust that whatever we're experiencing is absolutely perfect. And so that's where, trusting your experience and really just playing with the alertness becomes vital, because I judged the heck out of my experience. I used to think a lot. I used to love daydreaming. I used to worry about stuff. I thought there was a lot of value in worrying about things, as if that's where the answer comes from. If you start to just look at this stuff, if you just start to look at how you work, you'll realize the answer doesn't come from that. It is so pointless to spend so much time thinking about stuff, because that's not where the answer comes from. What it does is the opposite. It makes the heart beat faster. It makes us nervous. It makes us unsettled, worried, stressed out. Our bodies start to age because of it. Diseases start to get created. It's backwards. It's so backwards. But hey, we're all been doing it, so now we've got the chance to try something else. So to bring the alertness back into our practice, or to start playing with being alert, just simply, gently present when we think the ascension attitudes, and then simply, gently alert to whatever's happening afterwards, and just learn to just rest there and stay there. We start to recognize that there's this different state of being, this different place we can just put our attention in and be in. When we start to experience that, question it for yourself. Like, is it easy to do that? Is it effortless? Like, what actually are you doing to be so present and experiencing this peace? What is this question mark of curiosity? And that, for me, was when ascending started to become exciting. To begin with, it was like I was doing it because I believed in what I got told, that it's the way to all the good stuff that we've all been told about: peace, union, connectedness, purpose, all the things that I was looking for, happiness. And yet I struggled immensely with my practice. But I was determined, because yes, something was changing. Regardless of my effort and my trying to do it, a lot was changing in my experience. But I want to share with you tonight that there's so much more. And I love how when you start to just become more curious about consciousness and more curious about what it is that you put your attention on, what are those thoughts that you choose to believe? And then become curious about what it's doing to you. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel relaxed and peaceful, or do you feel angst and nervous when you are thinking? Like, get curious about your practice, and you'll see the answer for yourself. What I played with, as much as I played with the alertness, I played with the simple stillness as well. Because, obviously it becomes the same thing, but I wasn't somebody that was curious about what was the thoughts that I was thinking, what were the patterns that I get hooked on. I didn't really care about that. But some people do, and it's a great enlightened discovery and journey for people who do care about seeing the patterns so that they can let go of them, or seeing the reactiveness so they can choose to experience something else, to let go and just be present. That wasn't my excitement at all. My excitement was the stillness. My excitement was that space, that simple, pure, empty space when you close your eyes. And I wanted to know that. And so that's what created the alertness for me, and the practice of using my techniques to stay in that space. And by simply playing and being curious about it, I put more attention into residing in the space rather than, thinking about stuff or seeing how much I had evolved or how many thoughts I had or didn't have in this closed-eyed ascension. So that's something to play with too, is in your own experience, just see where your attention is and what's taking your attention. What are you making real? And there's this very old, around the world in every tradition, statement that says what you focus on grows. And it applies here completely too, that if you're focusing on the thoughts, well, then that's what you're going to discover. You're going to have a discovery of thoughts, which is a good thing if you start to discover that you're not them, rather than if you discover you have tons of them and you're getting upset, well, then it's not a good thing. If you discover you have tons of them and you're not them, then it's a brilliant thing. If you start to discover that there's a space there, a gap, an emptiness, blackness, this infiniteness, this peace that just is always there. And if you put your attention there, there's more of it. And then you're curious about that and you want to see if there's any end to that. Play with exploring that. Where's the end to that space? Is that space inside of you or is it outside of you when you close your eyes? Is it above you, below you? Like, become curious to explore it. Is there an end to it? What's in it? And what does it feel like for you? What are you experiencing when you simply allow your attention to be there? And by just doing that, guess what's happening to the thoughts? The bombardment of thoughts that most humans have throughout the day, or at least in that 20 minutes or so of closed eyes ascending. What happens to the thoughts when you're discovering or playing in that infinite space? The answer is your answer, you tell me. But my answer was, who cares? Who cared if I had 100 thoughts, 10 thoughts, the same thought, a really strong, mean thought, a really nice thought? Who cares if that thought was back here somewhere, as if it was a radio playing in another room? But my attention was immersed in this infinite space and discovering what was that like for me and how did I experience myself and my world in that space. Then who cared if that thought fluttered up and fluttered by, came up and disappeared? It didn't have the same appeal. It didn't have the same reality, and it definitely didn't have the same stickiness as it did before, when I was so concerned about these thoughts being there and how was I supposed to ascend to get out of these thoughts. We all do it. I don't think I know anyone that actually learned to ascend that hasn't been concerned about how many thoughts they have and starts to see like patterns and stickiness around them, or everyone goes through this. We all have them. And that's the joy of learning to see what the mind is. It's not this curse. It's not like this thing that we've got to get rid of. It's part of what God's given us. It's part of our experience. It's not supposed to, harm us in any way. And it's not supposed to be this burden or even this delightful thing either. It's simply just there. And when you're observing it, as if you were a video camera, just filming away, watching your world, watching what's going on in your experience. There's no judgment to it. There is not one part of you that says it's great, and there's not one part of you that says it's a problem. And that's a really cool thing to remember when you are closing your eyes and doing your practice, that no matter what you're experiencing, if you're the simple observer of that, it is simply there doing its own thing for whatever reason. It's really just energy. And if the least attention you put on that, it just does its own thing. It comes and it goes, as all energy does. So these thoughts that we've identified with and have become this huge problem for us, it just doesn't need to be like that. Just by practicing alertness, gentle alertness, having a little bit of curiosity about your practice and about what it is you are experiencing, your whole relationship with ascending changes. I can't imagine it wouldn't. That's why I'm saying it like an absolute. I'm not going to say maybe it will happen. I believe in my heart it will happen for everybody, because that curiosity changes it from being a burden to being this incredible adventure. So for me, the eyes closed ascending became super exciting because simply that, like, what is this infinite space? Is this infinite space really God? Is it really divine? Is it really the source of everything? Is it really what's written about in all those books from those really famous people? Or, is it really that, and I'm experiencing that? And when you start to explore, and even those questions start to fall away, none of that matters anymore, because what you're doing is surrendering everything into that experience of peace. Like anything even written has no comparison to the experience. What you're experiencing right now is the supreme knowledge. It's beyond anything. It's beyond what somebody wrote about a year ago or a day ago, years and years and years ago. Like, what you're experiencing now is supreme. And to have the tools and the practice that gives you that experience, like, don't shrink the hugeness of what you're doing and what you're experiencing by practicing ascending. It's massive what you're doing. We talked about that in the last Zoom call too. I guess this is how we're going to start linking things together. My little ramblings today, plus what we talked about last time, is the hugeness of ascending. When we're not ascending just for our own peace, or we're not ascending to have for me to have a better experience, but when we start to use the practice, and I've been talking about the eyes closed, but also eyes open as well, because you need both. Actually, you need both to be free. Obviously, you can't be free with just your eyes closed and not be free with your eyes open. It doesn't work that way. God's everywhere. Eyes closed and eyes open. Thank goodness. What was I talking about? So when you stop, or when you see that there's something bigger than just ascending for yourself, that one of the things we played with on the last Zoom call, and was inspired from the Arizona retreat, and actually was just taught in the Spain retreat tonight. Their night was a few hours ago. So all the people in the mastery retreat in Guarapa are now playing with this as well, is to be aware of ascending, not for yourself, not just for yourself, which sounds like we should be, like it's about my peace and my practice and my life, and that's very limiting. It's a great step forward, absolutely, and it's how we all start probably. But when we start to play with using the ascension attitudes for everybody, it becomes this gift and this wonder. It takes the me out of the picture even more. It's like, as much as I want this nice experience while I'm ascending, when I realize that I'm actually using these ascension attitudes to drop them, or to allow them to be recognized more into that infinite space, it's not about me. It's about the connection between everybody. And my gift to humanity is the fact that I can think these ascension attitudes. My gift is that I can actually be conscious, that I can recognize that space. And so it becomes a privilege, actually, to know the ascendant, to know the space, to be able to rest there for however long it is, whether it's very short or longer and longer and longer periods of time throughout your day. It becomes a privilege to do that, because lots of people don't know how to do that. And by us enlivening it, somehow in their hearts, in their experience, it's been enlivened too. It has to be, because that's where we're all connected. So when we think the first technique, when we focus on praise, when we focus on gratitude, any of the techniques, it's like we're enlivening that thread that moves throughout all consciousness, and which affects everybody. So however you experience that it becomes this thing that we can give away. I know when I've taught ascension in the past, it's not really a big deal, but sometimes people feel it's a little selfish, isn't it? It's like, this is my time to close my eyes, and I'm doing this for me. I need to get my peace and my life back together, and I need to get out of my crazy world for a moment. And, so it feels very like it's about us as individuals. But as much as it appears like that, that's absolutely impossible. There is no such thing as us not being affected by each other, or what happens on one part of the world doesn't affect the other part of the world. It's impossible for that to be so isolated. We're not isolated beings. We're energetic, we're conscious, and that consciousness has no end. And so when one person chooses to focus on praise, or chooses to focus on the stillness, the space, that's affecting everything. So in a world that's kind of, crazy ups and downs, and, it's been going on forever, that there's conflicts between countries or within cities, within neighborhoods, conflicts have been going on forever in humanity's history, that most of that is negative. It's focusing on the negative side of our thinking process, of our reactiveness. And that all holds an energy. And so for us to be able to transmute that and transcend that and change that by using the positive, by having praise and gratitude and love in our experience, and to be thinking that with the gateway or the foundation of the infinite, what we're doing is affecting change at its source, not from the mind wanting something to change, but at a fundamental level where everything's created at the beginning, at the source. And so for you to play with ascending for others, even resting your attention into this moment, being aware of that space between the thoughts and putting more attention there, you just playing with that, with the intention that it's not just for you. Like, you don't think about it, but just have the intention that it's not for you, but it's something that you give away. It's like Christmas time for the rest of the world, and they don't know. It's like Secret Santa. They're opening presents and they don't even know it. They don't know who it came from. It's like we're like secret ninjas going out there in the dark and sprinkling praise and gratitude across the world. That's how I like to think of it anyway. The silent heroes, the ones that don't need acknowledgement or, to be seen. And when everything's connected at the source, there's no way there's one part of this existence that's not getting touched by it. So that's all done in the negative, so let's say it in the positives. When you think the ascension attitude, when you rest in that infinite source, because that source is infinite, everyone is connected there. Everyone's in that, regardless of how much they're thinking. And so everyone is affected. Everyone and everything is affected by you making that choice to ascend, to use the techniques, or to rest in that infinite space. So it just takes it up a notch, doesn't it? That it's not about us, and it's not this thing that I'm doing for myself. It's not my path. It's not my journey. It's not my enlightenment. It's not my me trying to do good in the world even. It really is how we're all connected, and that by raising the bar or raising your own level of your practice, it's raising it for everyone else too. You might never ever see the results, and who cares? It's not about that. It's about just knowing in your heart that what you're doing is true. And the fact is that you do see the results if you look for it. You do see it all around you. So that came out of Arizona, ascending for not just for yourself, but for humanity. We talked about it on the last Zoom call, and Maharishi's teaching it still. Just got taught in Guarapa, so it's still fresh and new information and things that people are playing with. So that's a really cool one to keep it going too. The guys who were on the call, actually, it's not just the guys who were on the call last time, because I think everybody got the chance to listen to the recording. Yeah. I'd like some feedback on that, because Maharishi was just saying that he was in awe of how people's experiences had changed. So if anybody's got anything they want to share at this moment about that, it'd be really nice to share with everybody. I think you can just unmute yourself too if you wanted to share. Yeah, I think you can do that.
So Jaya, I'd like to share. Between the gentleness that Maharishi talked about and being more aware, not only of the space when the attitude is gone, but more super conscious and aware of the attitude itself. It's as if the practice went into overdrive. It's deeper, it's richer, there's more. It's just this tangible, amazing sense of oneness and connectedness. And it just every day keeps getting better and better and better. And it's just been amazing. And it's been quite a ride since Arizona, because I've gotten to see you, and then the Zoom call, and now this call, and all of these reminders. We had a First Sphere course here this weekend, and it's as if I keep just getting these gifts to keep me really anchored in that still space, no matter what's going on around me. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty amazing.
Wow. Thanks, Sarah. Anybody else want to share what they've been discovering with it? You can just unmute yourself and just start talking if you like. Nope. No volunteers? You guys are shy.
I'm not shy. It's Matty here from Thunder Bay.
Hi, Jaya.
Who's this?
It's Matty from Thunder Bay.
Hi, Matty. I'm trying to find you so I can bring you into the spotlight. Where are you?
Look for the white hair.
Okay.
I'd like to just reflect. There is quite a contingent teachers and ascenders from Thunder Bay who went, and the ascenders that came back, they said their experience just, we just had a meeting tonight, so that's why I was a little bit late coming here. We had our Tuesday night meeting, and one of the ascenders said she didn't think that the shift would have been so so great, but that it would stay. Like she said, she thought at the retreat she'd be in her little bubble, and when she'd get back to the real world, she expected it to drop. And I don't know if she's on the Zoom call tonight, so I hope she doesn't mind. I'm not mentioning names, but I'm speaking for her. And she was just radiant tonight in the meeting, and she was saying that it's still there, it's still just as strong. And we have an ascender who's going to be going to Spain this fall. That was at the Arizona retreat, and people have been saying, the people that were there, about how amazing it was and how it really shifted their experience. So, wow. And this is my third Arizona retreat, and they're all really great, but this one absolutely rocked.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was so beautiful when she shared tonight in our meeting, you know, and how her experience has just totally changed in the stillness, and that it's still there and it hasn't diminished one iota.
What's up? It was someone's phone, or?
Well, that's not me, but that's all I have to say, so I'll let someone else take the floor.
Okay.
Good chat with you, Jaya.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Marty. I'd like to comment on that too, though. It's like we do have that expectation that when we go to retreats, that it's about the retreat, that we can't possibly experience what we've been experiencing on the retreat outside of that, or when we go home, because it's about the retreat, right? And I think that's where people learn that what we learn in the retreats is what we take with us. The retreats are like the stepping stone or the foundation to give ourselves the recognition that we can actually do what we're wanting to do. When we're at home, we just get distracted. It's just that simple. And so we don't get that first step to go, oh, I can do it. And then when you get to a retreat, whether it's a short retreat like a weekend or even an advanced day, that's what the purpose of advanced days are as well. If you have them in your area, teachers, take note, do some advanced days. Very, very, very great short windows of opportunity for everybody to take advantage of a enclosed environment that supports growth. And so we remove ourselves from our daily distractions, like work, driving, commitments, chores, all that stuff. And go into a retreat environment, whether it's 1 day, 2 days, a week, a month, the big ones, which are over in Spain or in Mexico. And we realize that even though in a retreat, there's still distractions, there's still meetings and what's that word? It's not schedules. There's all these schedules and things to do. So it's not like you just close your eyes for hours and hours and hours. There's meetings and there's sometimes yoga and then you got to eat. So there's these schedules that actually make life appear to be quite busy, but you're in an environment that's totally supporting your desire to be present. And so every person you look at is an ascender wanting the same thing. Everybody you speak to is an ascender wanting the same thing. So you're surrounded by these reminders constantly to say, hey, now, back to now. Whatever homework was just delivered out, play with that. Have I closed my eyes today? Play with that. So any length of time when it comes to a retreat is so valuable for us to actually see that we can. And it's like the stepping stone, that once we know we can, it's like when we then go home and we're back into driving around the city or something, going to work, doing what we have to do. It's like you remember more. And then you have a conversation, or you got 10 phone calls to make today. You remember to be present instead of feeling overwhelmed. It's like it's the foundation to start this life from. So it's not about the retreat as in like the location of the retreat. I mean, it could be. There's a lot of good things that go on with the retreats also. But it's also about learning that we can do it. And so that when we leave that place, we actually take it all with us as this new ability or this new tool to keep applying throughout our daily life. So this is where this teaching is miraculous, because it's not about just living in retreats. It's not about going to a monastery up in the mountains and staying there forever. It's about learning how to be in the stillness in daily life, how to be completely connected to that infinite source while you've got all your chores to do and while you've got this list of things that needs to happen this week. And if you can start playing with that, I mean, that's probably the most conscious people on the planet. The most conscious people on the planet aren't the ones that can do it in a retreat and then come back into the world and can't. I mean, it's great and everything. I mean, of course, it's awesome. But to be free is where you live. To be free is to apply this living teaching in every moment of your day. To be able to recognize that either you have a choice to being stressed out and to come back to being present, or to see and transcend that feeling of being overwhelmed or upset or, worried about something, concerned about something. Seeing those thoughts, you don't necessarily get those things in a retreat, so you get the foundation of how to move your attention from the normal thinking that goes on, or abnormal really, and to stabilize in the silence more. But when you get home is where you sort of like seeing those conflicts more, or when you're back into daily life and things seem to be really fast. And if you can apply everything that you've learned in those moments, which is basically to just allow, be present, stop trying to control everything. The clearer and the more present you are, the more obvious the next footstep is. You know, any kind of stress comes from the mind. So when we're in daily life and seeing that we're getting stressed out or worked up about something, obviously we're thinking. So life, daily life starts to become our teacher. Like, where is my attention now? What am I experiencing? If it's not peace and just in the flow, then obviously I'm thinking about something. And so the retreats give us the foundation to bring it into our daily life. So our daily life is where we start to really, really amp it up. And I like what Sarah said earlier too, is that the reminders, having these constant reminders, like every couple of weeks, or things in your schedule, ascension meetings once a week, planning to just call a teacher once a week or every 2 weeks or something. Like I said, these Zoom calls actually come out of Colorado Ascenders community as well, every Monday. So there's plenty of opportunities to connect and be reminded. The retreat I just did in El Paso 2 weeks ago, we talked a lot about reminders. That was one of the first questions that came up was, I'm here, but what am I going to do after Sunday? And I'm like, well, today's Friday, so let's just start with that. But the reminders are very important. And I remember on my journey, on my passage through all of this, of when I wasn't surrounding myself with reminders, how I would forget. And when I was choosing to pick up MSI's books, pick up Jaya's book. Jaya has books now. When I wasn't looking for reminders, then it was like the flame started to go out a little bit. So doing what it takes for you to stay committed, doing what it takes for you to remember the ease and the gentleness. These things are being recorded now too. Listen to it time and time again. It's part of the gift to everybody is to have the reminders on hand so that your practice stays fresh. And what happens then is if you just reminding yourself that, yeah, okay, so today seemed a little bit full on, and I just completely didn't have time to ascend. And how many times did I think the ascension attitude with my eyes open? Bad me. And yeah, the stillness, what the heck happened to the stillness today? Nope, wasn't much stillness today. You know, instead of like looking back and going, oh, what a bad ascender I am, I'm never going to get it. The reminder is, okay, now I've remembered. Now's the only time you can connect. Now is the only time you can experience that peace and that infiniteness. So those reminders are always coming back to the same thing, the same message, that just let go. Let go of time. Who cares what happened and what could happen? Just let go into this moment and allow yourself to experience that peace. So reminders is a beautiful thing. Sticky notes, daily quotes, reminders on your apps, on your phones. Why not? Whatever it takes. Stay connected. Anyone else want to add anything before we change the subject? Either about reminders or about, what was the thing we were just talking about? Ascending for others.
Ascending for others. So ascending for others, this is Lee. And what I found is ascending for others has given me a really great strength that I never knew that I had, because it's just experiencing and recognizing at different points of the day that I'm grateful to somebody or something. I am grateful. I'm not grateful for an object, but I recognize the gratitude. I recognize that I praise people. It's given me a whole different aspect of work. When I go to work, I sit in meetings, and if I am silent and I'm present, the whole situation changes. If I'm doing a one-on-one meeting with somebody, And again, I'm present and I'm there in the moment and not thinking about anything in my mind, but just experiencing what is happening. It's unbelievable what has changed in my life just because of that. It's totally beautiful. And I ascend religiously every day, at least twice a day. And I go to the Monday meetings in Longmont in Colorado. So I encourage everybody to do that. It's totally beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, the proof is in the pudding, isn't it? By just doing it and being committed, it changes everything. It's like this practice. It is a practice. It becomes your life, really. You know, it can be once a day or whenever you have time. But for me, it's like the stillness is so important to know and to live in, that as I was growing as an ascender, I guess, as I was starting to become more conscious and starting to value the practice more, I didn't actually realize what I was really receiving from this. And I think it's really beautiful to even reflect sometimes on our own, where we're at and where we've come from, so that you do remember just how powerful this practice is. Like, what value do you put on happiness? What value do you put on being non-reactive, just naturally, and naturally loving, and being able to look people in the eyes and not be scared about that or threatened by that, you know? And
well, I think other people aren't threatened either. I mean, because when you do that, it changes the whole dynamic between you and another person. They become unafraid. You know, they become themselves. And they might even recognize that they become themselves, but you can tell.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pure magic. Anyone else want to share anything?
Hey, Jaya, it's Durrani.
Hi, Durrani.
Hi, California, Durrani. Actually, I'm in Traverse City right now, Michigan. But, you know, I came in about 10 minutes after. I was leading an advance meeting, so that was really fun. But one of the things that has really been coming very clear to me is just that alertness you're talking about, and being excited and curious when I both open-eyed and closed-eyed ascension time. There's a natural curiosity of wanting to explore and discovering more all the time. And it's not that that wasn't there before, but it's really increased incredibly, especially over the last couple of months, I would say. And how it's just a natural part of the discovery, and a natural part of the intimacy of wanting to know more and be curious about it and being alert to it in a way that I haven't experienced as much as I'm experiencing lately. So it's just been so much fun. And then open-eyed has been the same as well. Like you were just talking about, you know, when we're dealing with people and everything. I had a discussion that came up today that was a little tense with my son, and it was interesting to watch, you know, how the thinking wanted to, you know, the reaction. And then I was like, wait, here we are right now. Like, I could just totally rest and be present exactly and alert to that presence, and just stay right there. And he just said what he needed to say, and I just kept, there was nothing to do except just recognize that. And it was just a really amazing experience for me to just, you know, have that where the rubber meets the road moment in our practice. So just playing with both open-eyed and closed-eyed with that real gentle alertness, and just keeping my attention and my focus there in those moments. So, yeah.
Jaya, can you hear me?
Yes, who's that?
Okay, this is Satya. See, what I like to share is, yes, the retreats are very good. I had a very good experience last year, And when I was there, I don't know what happened, but I follow different path and start letting everything go. So, you know, at the end, took me almost a year to finish putting everything in place. Or, you know, I didn't put it in place, but it's in place. So now I can enjoy more time without being busy working and doing a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this time that you were here in El Paso and give us the gift to teach us how to ascend with eyes closed or eyes open, for me was wonderful. You know, was the biggest gift I ever received. Because as you, I was very frustrated too, and I was reacting too often. But since that day, you know, everything changed for me, and I feel a lot of, I feel gratitude for everything that happened to me. Now I can appreciate the beauty of everyone, every place, every single moment that I'm living. And, you know, I cannot be more grateful to this teaching, the ascension. I cannot live without ascension. You have to be in the stillness, to be watching every single moment, every single thought that I don't really care also. You know, it's beautiful. What can I tell you?
That's awesome. I'm very happy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge difference from the practice when we're struggling with it to when we just start to let go and allow. And automatically when we're letting go and allowing, we're alert. It's just an automatic thing. The two go hand in hand. But the difference, the change, the contrast is just immense. And that's where it just starts to become effortless and just such a joy too. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
One more thing I wanted to talk to you guys about before we kind of wrap it up. I didn't want it to go as long as we did last time because I put it back an hour, so I know it's quite late over on the East Coast at the moment. The other thing that I actually spoke to Maharishi this morning, and I was like, he asked me if the call was on tonight, and I was like, yes. And I said, is there anything you wanted me to share with everybody? And the one thing he wanted me to just say again was on the last Zoom call, we talked about when you do things 100% versus 98%. And it was talked about in the Arizona retreat. And so you might have already been aware of this. But he wanted me to mention it again because it's a really cool thing to just keep in our awareness and to play with about. Because now that we're talking about the practice about being more alert and being more kind of curious, you know, I like the big question mark, the curiosity when we ascend. And so it's almost like we need to be doing something when we close our eyes. And so when we have that curiosity, it's like an exploration of what is actually there. What is consciousness? What is this infinite space, and how am I operating in it? And then with the eyes open, like, oh, I forgot your name, the guy that was speaking earlier. Ian, was it Ian from Colorado? Anyway, how by playing with the eyes open and being connected to either using the techniques with the eyes open or being aware of being present, like rippingly present, just super alert, to not fade in our experience. And you start to see that. So the difference between 100% and 98% is basically being focused or unfocused. You know, the numbers sound so close, but really, when it comes to being conscious, it's pretty black and white. You're either surrendered to this moment and operating from now, or you're not. There's very little wiggle room here. You know, like it's actually kind of it's a very cool thing to play with because we like to give ourselves more credit and believe that perhaps oh wow, I had 1,000 thoughts, but I was really still. And then you go, well, actually I was probably thinking most of that, if I can remember how many thoughts I had and what the content was. So sometimes and then the opposite happens. Sometimes we're very judgmental towards ourselves, but perhaps we have been more still or present than we were aware of. So it's not like anything's good or bad, but it's to be playful with it, and to, again, see when we can just be a little bit more present, a little bit more gentle, a little bit more alert, and just see what happens to our relationship to the stillness, or our relationship to this present moment, or our relationship to thought is. Like, what is that like for you? If it was very humbling for me to believe I was so still, and yet when I played with being more alert, to realize there was so much more I could give to the stillness. There was so much more attention I could just let go and be present. And when there was this me trying to ascend, it really felt like I was either 100% or 98%. You will have this dance when you practice of, it feels like I ascend, I rest in the infinite, I choose the ascension attitudes. And that's great. If you're doing that, that's awesome. But the times when we start to just really let go and allow the experience to be subjective, then, and by being present, and just by being more aware of this moment, then you can have this different experience of recognizing how you can just dissolve into now. And what is that like? You can have this experience that there is no me choosing the ascension attitudes. And so you can just play with these things, play with how much more alert you can be. And it changes your relationship to the thoughts. And that's the key here. So that's the one that I really want you guys to play with, and have fun exploring, like the difference between being 100% and 98% when you use the techniques, when you explore the stillness, when you see that you're reacting to something, to let it go. Just really play with being full on and just see what happens in your own experience, right? Because this is about you. You're waking up, your journey. And then ultimately it's not about you at all. It's about consciousness and for everyone else, but we'll stick with you at the moment. Okay.
Yes.
So did anybody else want to share anything, or should we start to wrap this up? I didn't want it to get too long or too late tonight.
Hi, Jaya. We've got to share here.
Okay, go ahead. Who are you?
Danielle.
Hi, Jaya.
Hey, Danielle.
So I have a couple things to share
Okay.
that are reminders for me. So one I found this past week was the boomerang effect. And for me, it reminds me of like how we talked in the first sphere in the compassion technique, that like our thought that like when we send out compassion, that it comes back to us, and the boomerang comes back to us too.
Boomerang, is that what you're saying?
A boomerang.
Boomerang, yes. Okay,
The boomerang effect.
Yep, gotcha.
And then my other reminder for me this week was the space in between the train cars.
She's like, what?
Between the train cars? That's awesome. Because they're pretty close together. But I know what you're saying. That's awesome.
That they're just like thoughts.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Uh-huh.
The train cars are just like thoughts, and the space between them is the stillness.
That's exactly right. Did you know, Danielle, that if you actually watch the train go past, you can actually watch the carriages and it's like constant, right? Or if you looked on the other side of the train and there was something standing on the other side of the train, you can actually see that in between the carriages, because it's just you changing your attention if it's on the train itself or if it's on the other side of the train. And that's exactly the same with ascending. So I got you. I know what you're talking about. Me and Danielle, we know.
Because we're cool.
Yeah, man.
We're special.
We're all special, but me and you, we're the specialists.
Love you, Jaya.
I love you too, babe. I'm glad that I'm talking to you. Anyone else want to share anything before we say goodnight? One thing that happened on the last call, which I think was really beautiful, is as everybody was saying goodbye or clicking off, people started to say, Anne from Minneapolis, Bob from Toronto. And I suddenly got this awareness of just just how big this platform was last time, and that we're connected with so many people across Canada and the US. And I thought it was really beautiful. So it might be chaos to do it tonight, but if we want to, I think it'd be a really nice way to just say goodbye. Because for some reason, this has kind of been stuck on me, the camera, but hopefully the camera's going to move to whoever's speaking as we say goodbye. Okay?
This is Uma.
Hi, Uma.
Hi. I didn't type in before because it took me that long to find my unmute. The other thing we should do is we say goodbye. I know. Who would have thunk? And what a lovely picture to be stuck on, to get to see your beautiful face all evening. But as we go and say goodnight, let's wish Bhakti a happy birthday.
Bhakti's birthday?
Bhakti's birthday? Yeah.
Birthday. You know what this means. If all the Ascenders and all the Ishayas, there's lots of birthday songs.
Here we go.
Okay, I'm going to unmute you all so we can actually hear you. Hang on, just give me a minute. All right, this is going to be scary. Okay, happy birthday, Bhakti. Let's go.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bob. Happy birthday to you. Cha. Ooh la la. Stick your head in a hat like that.
Lots of love to you, Bhakti.
Love you too,
who would like us to do this again in 2 weeks' time?
Sure.
Me.
Yes,
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
absolutely.
All right, you're on. I think I'm in the US for at least 2 more weeks, so we'll send out another one and do it. Maybe if we can have, because I'm playing with days and I'm playing with times. I don't know how to do this. If there's a preference, just email me. If you have a preference of a day or a time, just email me, Jaya@thebrightpath.com, and I will just look at those requests and see what we can do in 2 weeks to accommodate, because I know everyone's schedules are different, so we'll see what we can do. Okay. All right.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
California. Signing out from Utah.
This is Lee from Colorado. Bye.
Lee from Texas. Good night.
Good night.
Minnesota.
Bye from Dailan in Kaministika. Bye, Thunder Bay.
Jackie and Lee from El Paso, Texas.
Marty from Thunder Bay. Good night.
Good night.
Good night from California.
I'm from Chicago.
Thank you, Yaya.
Jimmy.
Hi, y'all.
I don't want to hang up. I want to listen to it.
Bye from Western San Diego.
Yeah, nobody's hanging up.
This is too much fun.
Bye from Jerry's house, from Jerry, Uma, and Trikari.
Jerry's there. Where's Jerry? I want to see Jerry.
Jerry.
Oh, love you guys.
Hello.
I don't know which one to look at. I've got gallery.
It's the Uma one. Well, you can stay so when the others drop off, we can be the last man standing.
Uma, you need light on you.
How about the last man ascending?
Is that Anne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ann and Jerry and Ablokiteshwar and Danielle are here.
Oh, nice.
I love us. And Uma is across town.
Hi, Radasi.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. You guys are awesome.
Right.
Night.
I'm going to sign off.
Cut it.
Well, I had tons of messages during the Zoom call and I didn't read any of them. Sorry.
Who's that? I don't know. Who did that? Fit in with,
Oh, it's her daughter.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Rodasi's oldest daughter.
Hi, man.
Can you see Jerry yet, Jaya?
Huh?
Can you find us yet?
I can't. I'm still on. I don't know what I've done. I'm trying to get down to gallery. I'll go on speaker and try and go through. Okay, Uma, just keep waving your hand. There's not that many people here.
And it's under Uma. It's on my sign-on.
I'll put you. Here you are. Spotlight. Oh, it's very dark, Uma. You need to put some lights on.
That's why.
Hey, Jerry.
It's kind of cool.
There you
How's
go.
that? There he is.
There we go. Oh my gosh. Hello. Jerry, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Oh.
Yay, hi, Jerry.
I'm just going to stop recording, so.
I was from Bucky's.